The member for Morenni.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to speak on the Casino Control and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2023. The bill was introduced in response to concerns about the integrity and accountability of the state's casino sector. These concerns were stoked by allegations of money laundering, criminal infiltration and other integrity issues, particularly in relation to the Star Entertainment Group, which operates the Brisbane Treasury Casino and the Star Gold Coast Casino. Star is also a key backer of the $3.6 billion Queen's Wharf Casino development still under construction. The bill follows the initial reforms enacted by the Casino Control and Other Legislation Amendment Act 2022, Queensland, in October 2022. In July 2022, the former Attorney-General appointed the Honourable Rupert Goddison AOKC to conduct an external review of the Queensland operations of the Star Entertainment Group Limited. In addition to inquiring into the operations of Star's Queensland properties and providing advice to inform government's concurrent suitability investigations into Star's Entertainment Group Limited, Mr Goddison was tasked with considering what improvements might enhance the integrity of casinos. Mr Goddison made 12 recommendations for reforms to the legislation, all of which the government has undertaken to implement. The bill provides a regulation-making power that will allow the details of these technology-driven reforms to be defined and refined in accordance with the best practice harm minimisation. Deputy Speaker, the bill introduces a requirement for casino operators to observe a mandatory code of conduct, the details of which are to be prescribed by regulation after the bill passes. The code, or so we are told, will deal with the appropriate conduct of casino operators and the implementation of appropriate practices, systems and procedures related to the governance, accountability and integrity of casino operators, all of which should have been included in the primary legislation. The bill also amends the Casino Control Act to provide for the periodic cost recoverable reviews into each casino licence at intervals of not more than 5 years unless extended to a minimum of 7 years. According to the government, these reviews will cover the suitability of the casino entities associated with the casino licence, the compliance of each casino entity with the casino legislation, the operation of the casino and whether it is in the public interest that the casino licence remains in force. However, once again, the actual details on this won't be known until enacted by regulation once this bill has been assented. Significantly, the bill also creates the framework for Mr Goddison's recommendations that mandatory carded play be implemented in Queensland casinos, accompanied by mandatory pre-commitment along with restrictions on the use of cash. The bill will also restrict casinos from accepting more than a prescribed amount of cash from a person for gambling transactions within a 24-hour period. Mr Goddison's recommended a $1,000 limit, noting that the limit relates only to the use of cash and is separate from any default expenditure limit as set under the provisions relating to the mandatory pre-commitment. These types of government-run income management programs set a dangerous precedent for the future and privacy of financial autonomy here in Queensland. Such schemes always end up with governments implementing the most coercive possible measures for an ever-expanding number of people, irrespective of their behaviour and regardless of consequent harm. I also have serious misgivings around the threat to ordinary people's privacy posed by this bill. The Office of the Information Commissioner expressed similar concerns over the bill's privacy implications in her submission. She also noted that the Queensland Parliament is presently dealing with a number of bills with significant privacy issues around some of their provisions. As the OIC points out, Clause 43 of the bill allows for regulations mandating carded play, which will require individuals to gamble by way of card linked to their identity, against which all their carded play data will be monitored. It will be stored and shared for research purposes. According to the Commissioner, this obligation for cashless carded play has direct and serious privacy impacts. Restricting how a person can access and where they can spend their own money interferes with a person's right to personal autonomy and therefore their right to a private life. It also impacts on how a person is able to conduct their private life and marks a sinister extension of government regulation into the private and family lives of persons engaging in perfectly lawful activities. The government has also failed to clearly demonstrate that these cashless gambling measures were only means by which its objective might be achieved. The language of Human Rights Act is very clear as it's the concept of proportionality. We need some solid evidence-based before we agree to running another poorly designed social policy experiment on the people of Queensland.
Member, could I ask that you move that the debate be adjourned?
Deputy Speaker, I now move that the debate be adjourned.